It's Thursday, March 17th, and this is now on H&N.
Hawaii gas prices soar to record highs as regular in Honolulu tops $5 a gallon.
We miss the Japanese visitors.
As Japan eases restrictions, businesses here at home are hopeful for a rebound in international arrivals.
Irish pubs are counting on this St. Paddy's Day after 2 tough years during the pandemic. I'm Bradley Blackburn with a toast to the survivors and all those pubs that had to close permanently.
Getting back to doing what we do, running a pub.
These stories, plus the days of sharing your Netflix password, may be coming to an end. We'll explain coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now on this St. Patrick's Day. You got Jonathan and Ashley live right here in the H&N Digital Center. Let's take you live outside to the airport. That's because if you are planning to fly the friendly skies, plan to pay sky-high prices for your ticket. Airlines are jacking up prices.
That's right. One reason demand is through the roof, and another, fuel. As expensive as it is to fill up your tank, imagine filling up a 737 carrying 6,000 gallons of fuel. As Pete Montaigne reports, your ticket might not be the only way airlines try to pass off those costs.
Spring break starts at the airport where people are flying more than ever since the start of the pandemic, and they are already paying more.
Are these friends of yours?
Yeah, this is my friend here.
Dalia Sharp of Michigan was about to treat herself for her birthday next month.
And I was deciding to go to Aruba, and in 2 days it went up $300.
That's a lot.
And I miss the $300 less, so I decided not to go.
Jet fuel has spiked to its highest level in more than 2 years. A CNN analysis of federal data found filling up a Boeing 737 has shot up $6,800 since the invasion of Ukraine and $13,000 in the last year. Delta, United, and JetBlue all say they will pass the cost on to consumers.
If it became unreasonable, I think people would forego traveling. It would just depend on how much it would be and how bad you want to go somewhere.
To conserve costs, airlines like Alaska and Southwest say they will slash some flights from schedules. But airline experts say do not be shocked if carriers get even more creative, charging more for things like Wi-Fi, food, or seat selections.
If you're paying 75% more than you were a year ago to gas up your car, I think you can relate to the plight airlines are facing when they have to pump tens of thousands of gallons of fuel into every one of their planes to transport us.
Experts think carriers could get away with charging more since so many people want to fly. American Airlines says demand for travel is at an all-time high. Now airlines will have to balance ticket prices or push more people towards staycations.
I think this summer we could actually see a lot of people staying closer to home if these gas prices continue to increase.
I think people will travel, but will they travel by air? It all depends on how much airfares go up.
Honolulu's average regular gasoline rose more than 4 cents yesterday, reaching over $5 a gallon based on AAA daily price research. It is, for Hawaii's biggest city, a new record. To put things into perspective, average Honolulu regular was $4.41 a month ago and $3.44 a year ago. AAA reported the average price for regular at $5.18 in Hilo, $5.26 in Kahului, and $5.31 in Lihue, all up 2 or 3 cents from the day before. One of our viewers on Molokai took these photos at a Kaunakakai gas station. The price there, $5.88 for regular. Gas prices are routinely higher than the AAA averages on Molokai and Lanai and in other remote parts of the state.
Well, Japan will end most its COVID restrictions starting next week, but that doesn't necessarily mean that tourists are going to rush back to Hawaii. Let's bring in Casey Lund now with more on that. So explain more about this to us, Casey.
Yeah, Jonathan, so it is a step in the right direction, but a lot of people maybe thought when they heard any development that it was going to be opening the floodgates. That's not happening just yet. But what happened yesterday is that Japan's minister did say that on Monday the 21st, they'll be lifting most COVID restrictions, and that is purely mostly for domestic things, right? So people are allowed to have big parties again and gather, and it's going to make domestic travel in Japan quite a bit easier, and that is a good step, and people are very hopeful that that will soon mean that things will get back to normal here, and we'll see some traveler numbers that were close to pre-pandemic levels. But we did speak to some business owners and Japanese tourism officials here in Hawaii to see at least what they were thinking, as we did get some good news out of that nation.
Until 2019, pre-pandemic, the Japan market was good for $2.2 billion in spending, total spending in the state of Hawaii. So it was very important for us to maintain this market, even during the pandemic and lockdown for the last 2 years.
We miss the Japanese visitors. We all know that there's a bulk of them that go here every year, and we kind of expected that already. And we love everybody, but especially the Japanese visitors, because there's like about, I would say 20-30% of them, sometimes even more, that go here.
So, Casey, you were talking about those Japanese arrival numbers, and honestly, they're still just dismal, but hopefully you're right. This good news coming out of Japan will change that. Howard Dykes was giving us some very specific data earlier this morning on Sunrise. I wanted to play that out for you.
In 2019, we welcomed 4,000 to 6,000 Japanese visitors a day. Yesterday, we got 77. Mainland traffic is up 12%, but foreign arrivals are down 11%. The still nascent Japanese return means we're still waiting for visitors who mostly stay in hotels, do a lot of dining and shopping, and have respect for local cultures. Japanese travelers are about their own country's return policies, and they're also mystified by American squabbles over masking, which has been a common defense against common flu in Japan for decades.
Well, Casey, Japan is a hot spot for many travelers from here in the islands and internationally. I miss it. So what do these new restrictions mean for international travelers going into the country?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't mean a whole lot. They haven't opened their borders. That hasn't changed, so it's still difficult for international travelers. And it should be noted that returning residents coming back to Japan, while, yes, they no longer have to quarantine if they're boosted and vaccinated and provide a negative test, just like we were doing for a while, there's a huge backlog. Japan's only allowing 7,000 people in per day, and those are mostly scholars, students, interns, people that have business arrangements and things like that. That is an increase from 5,000 people a day. That's what changed yesterday, so it means that they'll start to chomp away at that backlog a little bit more, and it'll be earlier in the year. But last, we heard from Howard just a little while ago, the last time he gave us an estimate of when they'll get through that backlog, when they were only doing 5,000 people a day, was sometime late this fall, maybe August or September. So maybe that's bumped up a little bit, but your travel plans to Japan, Jonathan, might not be happening still anytime soon.
Darn it. But a lot of good information there, Casey. Thanks for that update.
The war in Ukraine is entering its fourth week, and Russian forces have yet to capture a major city, but the casualties are mounting as the bombardment continues. Skylar Henry has more.
Russians continue their relentless assault on cities throughout Ukraine with missile, rocket, and mortar fire. In the northern city of Chernihiv, police there say an artillery attack today killed civilians, including an American. Meanwhile, in the southern city of Mariupol, searchers are sifting through rubble looking for survivors of another attack. This theater was said to be sheltering more than 1,000 people, and satellite images prior to the blast showed the word children painted in Russian so bombers could see it.
I think he is a war criminal.
President Biden called Russian President Vladimir Putin a war criminal Wednesday. The White House later said the president was speaking from his heart.
Speaking from what he's seen on television, which is barbaric actions by a brutal dictator through his invasion of a foreign country.
The White House says President Biden will speak with China's president on Friday to discuss the war in Ukraine. The meeting comes amid reports China may be preparing to supply Russia with military equipment.
Any effort to supply, to provide materiel for Russia's war effort, that would be met with significant costs.
The Pentagon tweeted out this video of body armor and helmets being shipped to Ukraine. Senators were briefed on White House plans to ship more supplies, including drones and anti-aircraft weapons.
It's clear they know how to effectively use the weapons that are being provided to them, and so it's incumbent on us to continue to provide those weapons.
Defense officials say Russia's attacks have stalled, largely due to Ukrainian forces defending their embattled country. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Japanese officials say at least 4 people died and 107 others were injured in yesterday's big quake. The powerful undersea quake struck off the coast of Fukushima around 11:30 Japan time and 4:30 in the morning Hawaii time. Take a look at this. Scary moments there for sure. The quake was initially classified as a magnitude 7.3, but Japanese authorities upgraded it to a 7.4. Some coastal towns in Japan saw tsunami waves, but they were less than a foot high. Homes and offices are dealing with broken dishes, displaced furniture, and tipped over file cabinets. Authorities are also telling people to watch out for potential aftershocks for about a week.
Some lawmakers are concerned that the Navy won't be able to drain the fuel from the Red Hill tanks before possible mandatory water restrictions this summer. The Navy's timeline still is unclear, and its own investigation has not been made public yet. Mahealani Richardson has more.
State Representative Bob McDermott believes at best case scenario, it'll be 3 years before the tanks can start defueling.
It doesn't have the force of law. It's a promise from him, and when he disappears, so does his promise.
While the Secretary of Defense ordered defueling and decommissioning of the Red Hill fuel tanks, McDermott is doubtful.
You're looking best case scenario, 3 years, probably closer to 10 if at all.
More than $680 million was included in a 2022 spending bill by Congress for the Red Hill crisis. But McDermott says that's not enough for the long haul.
$4 billion would be on the low side, I think. Quite honestly, because how do you remediate all that soil that was on the side of a mountain that's full of gas? So they don't have money for that right now.
The Navy is launching an additional investigation into the Red Hill water crisis, saying its initial command investigation did not sufficiently review response to the leaks last May and November. An initial report was due mid-January and hasn't been released. While the Navy has said defueling would take 12 months and a plan to do it is due at the end of May, Senator Jarrett Keohokalole says the timeline is unclear.
We're not going to know until the Navy releases the reports that they need to publicly complete and release for them to even shut down the facility.
There's an upcoming court hearing on the state's emergency order against the Navy on March 22nd, and Keohokalole says the Navy needs to drop its lawsuit.
It's difficult to get everybody in the room without the lawyers present, and so that makes things hard to work out.
With nearby Board of Water Supply wells closed to prevent spread of contamination, Oahu water users are being asked to voluntarily conserve water because of the crisis, and mandatory restrictions are possible this summer.
The clock is ticking on our water conservation issue on the island of Oahu.
Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Mahea. Let's take you live outside to Waikiki. Look at that. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. St. Patrick's Day Parade going on right now through Waikiki. Over 800 participants taking part in this activity day. It's been a while since we've seen activity like this in this post-pandemic world. Right now, for our podcast listeners, we're looking at a lineup of vintage cars making their way through the parade route right now. We're going to have a lot more to talk about in regards to St. Patrick's Day in just a moment. But first, here's Billy V with a check of your weather.
We'll take a look at the numbers. Not too bad. 6 to 8 foot surf over on the North Shore. West side is 4 to 6. The swell is gone. We've got another one that's coming up this weekend. Let's go ahead and take a look at your forecast for the next 7 days. 3 days of pretty much steady, stable trade wind weather. 10 to 20 miles per hour. Windward and Molokai showers drifting leeward at times. Then we get a couple of days where we lose the winds. Tuesday next week, we've got a frontal system that's going to come through and bring us a bunch of rain. So we're looking forward to that. We need the moisture. Get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Uh-oh, if you're one of those people who've shared their Netflix password with a friend or two, I know I have, the company is ready to crack down. Chanel Jones explains exactly what's going on.
Sharing your favorite Netflix binge with a buddy may soon come at a price. The streaming giant behind hits like Inventing Anna,
Who's more famous right now than Anna Delvey?
The Tiger King, and Bridgerton.
Yes, that is why I thought of it.
Announcing Wednesday that it's cracking down on sharing passwords with someone outside your household in a different location. It will begin testing new ways to make users sharing accounts pay additional fees, posting a statement to its website saying, "We've always made it easy for people who live together to share their Netflix account." While these have been hugely popular, they have also created some confusion about when and how Netflix can be shared. The company says the upcoming test launch will begin with a trio of countries in Central and South America. Users with standard and premium plans will be able to add up to 2 people they don't live with for less than the cost of a separate Netflix plan. After years of turning a blind eye to password sharing, inspiring endless jokes.
Netflix, it's great, especially since it's free if you use your band leader's username and password. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Raise your hand if this affects you. How many people here share a Netflix account?
The reaction to this latest announcement sparking outrage on social media. Subscribers tweeting, "You do this and goodbye Netflix. Got plenty of other options." Another writing, "To those of you who have my Netflix password, it's been a real one. Looks like the fun is over." A new requirement that could make the streaming service's greeting, "Who's watching Netflix?" the most important question of the day.
Man, before we get to sports, a quick thank you for Ashley, because I've been using your Hulu account password for a few months.
Jonathan!
You didn't even know that, did you? So if you get those
Those
frequently...
random
yeah.
recommendations?
Yeah,
I see. Makes sense now.
All right, we got a special guest here today.
That's right. It's that time of year, everybody. March Madness, and Kyle Chinen is here to break down the NCAA women's bracket as well as the Rainbow Wahine's journey from the Big West Championship to the Big Dance.
Yeah, Kyle, and I heard there was just a press conference.
That's right, guys. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, the Wahine just wrapped up a quick presser ahead of their opening round appearance in the NCAA tournament against Baylor. Wahine, obviously, like you just mentioned, the Big West Conference champions, coming into the tourney as the number 15th seed, set to take on the number 2 Baylor Bears in Waco, Texas. Yeah, so they just kind of asked them about the experience, what it meant to them to make it to this stage. A lot of childhood dreams realized for a lot of these girls. And then, just really asking them what it means to represent this state. Not a lot of teams in this tournament represent an entire state, an entire chain of islands. They might represent the city that they are in or things like that, but they represent, all of us here in Hawaii. And, here's what they really had to say about that.
Yeah.
Representing Hawaii, that's kind of been a focal point for my 6 years. That's something Coach Beeman always kind of preaches, that we do represent a whole state, and wearing Hawaii across our chest is definitely something we do with pride and a huge honor. And just to know that we kind of have a whole state behind us is also huge.
Being able to represent Hawaii is just a gift in itself, and being able to bring it across the ocean to Texas is just an experience. And just knowing that we also have the entire state behind us is something really special.
There's just true aloha spirit, which you don't know unless you live there. It's just an opportunity that not many people can get unless they come and play at Hawaii. And these young ladies, when they walk in the door, I think they have an idea of what it's going to be like. And then they actually feel the support and the aloha. And it's like, wow, coach, we had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we try to tell you when we recruit you. It's an amazing place. And when you're the only show in town and you can bring joy to people by doing something you love, it's just an amazing, amazing feeling.
So coach talking there. So Kyle, tell me, what are their chances? What's it looking like? What are those experts saying?
You know, guys, it's not a said and done win for them. Obviously, coming in as the lower seed and Baylor coming in as the number 2. Really, they could have been the number 1. They just lost their championship game in the Big 12 conference to Texas. So, they're the underdogs. They're gonna have to put on a monstrous performance in order to get in front early and have a shot against the Lady Bears, who have one of their standout players, who's Nalissa Smith. She's having another All-American type season. Meanwhile, on our side of the court, we have Amy Atwell, 6th-year senior, Big West Conference Player of the Year. She's going to have a monster game. But yeah, so they really just have to be, that scrappy underdog mentality, and it's going to be fun because they've done big comebacks before this season too, so it's going to be an exciting one for sure.
Awesome. And real fast, Kyle, tell us about this podcast you're part of now.
That's right. Me and one of our digital producers, Davis Pittner, have been putting this together for a while. We have a brand new sports podcast here on the Hawaii News Now family of podcasts, HNN Overtime. Our first episode is out right now for you to listen. You can head over to the sports section of our website, take a listen, talking about March Madness and all that, and the Wahine. So
yeah, you can find it by just searching Hawaii News Now wherever you get your podcasts. It's looking good. Kyle, stick around. We want you to hear the rest of these stories we're going to play out with you, so stay to the end of the show. From the feeds, here's what the internet is talking about. Are you a Wordle whiz? The game site, Word Tips, scored look through Twitter to locate the cities, states, and countries that have the best players. Sweden took the top spot globally. Closer to home, North Dakota, oddly enough, was the most savvy state. And St. Paul, Minnesota was a top city. Average of 3 guesses. Very impressive.
Well, some people play Wordle every day. Others need their daily dose of Britney. But apparently the entertainer has deactivated her Instagram account once again. So Spears has used this form of social media to discuss issues about her personal life, including the problems within her family and her treatment during that conservatorship. But this may only be temporary, because last September she deleted her account for just a few days before coming back to announce her engagement.
And it is St. Patrick's Day. No one more excited than Irish pubs. Here's CBS reporter with an update on that in our Good News Now.
At McGee's Pub in New York City, they've spent decades pouring pints for regulars. But for the first time in a long time, the neighborhood pub is starting to feel regular again.
The restrictions are all lifted, so we're looking for a pre-COVID Paddy's Day.
Manager and partner Frank McCauley remembers the moment in 2020 when he was gearing up for big St. Patrick's Day crowds. The pandemic forced him to close.
You couldn't pick a worse time. No, we lost our busiest day of the year.
Pubs have always been more than a place for a drink. They're part of the community.
It brings the neighborhood together.
But so many pubs didn't survive the pandemic. Irish pubs have closed across the country, from Boston to Denver, Dallas to Sacramento.
Well, the Irish are known for their hospitality.
Sean Murphy writes about New York bars for his website Murph Guide. Tracking pandemic closings, he's counted 25 Irish pubs in Manhattan permanently shuttered. That's more than 10%.
What is lost when one of these pubs closes?
A business owner loses his livelihood, employees lose their jobs, people lose their favorite watering hole. So losses on both sides of the bar.
Guys, how are we doing? How's everything here?
So this St. Patty's, survivors like McGee's are celebrating and counting on others to join in.
Getting back to doing what we do, running a pub.
It's taken more than the luck of the Irish to make it. And now raise a glass to the future. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
And in that spirit, we do have a brand new Irish pub in town. Yeah, Black Shamrock Tavern, located right there on Nu'uanu, where the old O'Toole's used to be, right across from Murphy's, where I'm headed right after the show, guys.
Shout out to JJ.
Yep, making it rock. Shamrock. You guys have a great rest of your St. Patrick's Day. Have a good one.